Morning, boob tubers. Back on the Viper again, of course. The deeper I get into this car, the worse it gets. So these fancy little screws here, obviously Dodge OEM factory screws. We're holding this entire liner in. Oh, and the liner's riveted. So those have to be drilled out or broken off to get this liner out. I only need to get to the fuel filler neck, which is right there. Oh. I'm now in the process of rebuilding the fuel sending unit. Fuel pump, I guess, was replaced not too terribly long ago. I'm going to test this again. I know it does work, but I did find that the fuel hose coming off the fuel pump is just, look at that, it's just disintegrating. It's all cracked and that's no good. So that probably had something to do with the car taking a little while to start. May not be the whole issue, but it definitely did not help the situation. So I've got some new fuel line. I'm gonna put that on, get this thing back together. Everything's been cleaned up. Hopefully it will work when I test it. We'll see. Look at all of the crap that I've been getting out of this fuel pump. It's no wonder this thing did not want to fire up right away. So the previous owner, looks like he extended these cables to put the battery in the trunk, which I kind of like the battery being in the trunk. However, it takes up space and that trunk isn't that big and I can't put the spare tire back. So we're going to attempt to relocate the battery back over here where it's supposed to go. Let's see how he did with putting these cables together. I promised him I wouldn't rag on him too much, because after seeing this car and what it looked like originally and then seeing it in person, it is pretty impressive what he was able to do in bringing this car back to life, because it was so trashed. So I gotta give him props for that. Not many people would attempt to take on this project, especially in that condition. Looks like he used a whole roll of electrical tape. Guess if I just keep rolling it back like this, I'm gonna have a fresh roll. Why is your project taking so long? Well, it took me 2 days to get the tape off the battery cables, so that was a bit of a setback. That's one way to do it, and at least it can be undone and put back to factory. I put everything back together and I forgot to put gas in the car. There was 0 gas in the gas tank just now. This must be one of those weird hybrid Vipers that, I guess it doesn't need gas. I'll save myself some money. We're gonna do it again, but this time I put fuel in the car. It's been idling for like 5 minutes at least. So I may have solved that problem and then unearthed another problem. I don't know if you can see it on the video, but there's smoke coming out of the corner of my radiator. Always a good sign. I must have some sort of a pinhole leak or something because it is wet just a little bit down on that top portion on the right hand side. So it's probably spewing coolant, and that's what I'm seeing burning off. Nothing like solving one problem just to get yourself into something else. I've got the thing to where it will start, it will run, it will idle very nicely. It sounds great. That was the whole fuel system issue. That thing was just a mess with so much dirt and gunk and all kinds of crap in the tank, in the fuel pump, in the lines, etc. I'm gonna try to diagnose 2 more issues. I've got, I think, a small pinhole in my radiator, and I've got a power steering leak. I'm hoping it's just like one of the hoses, like the high pressure hose I have read is usually the culprit. The weather is finally cooled down here in Texas. It is beautiful, and it's the perfect weather for this car, so I don't want to miss out if I can. Since it is actually really cool out here this morning, I'm going to attempt to take this thing around the block. Let's just see what happens. I put some power steering fluid in there. It wasn't leaking right away, but let's drive the thing and see if we can get it to leak and figure out where it's coming from. And let's see if this old gal will make it around the block on her own. I'm optimistic. To a good start. We're moving! Brakes work. Oh, speedometer doesn't work. Maybe it's not hooked up. The camera fell, what you guys got to see or not, I won't know until I start editing, but it made it around the block. My speedometer is either not hooked up or just doesn't work, so I'll have to figure that out. The oil pressure's good, temperature seems to be climbing like it should, no lights came on, so that's a good sign. The car stopped. Steering, it's definitely pulling, so that needs to be addressed. And other than that, she's idling. Shifts well. Sounds good. That is a good solid week's worth of work right there. There's the pile of dirt that I pushed out from the driver's side footwell like the very first day when I was messing with the seat, and I completely forgot about it. But yeah, that was a ton of dirt up underneath there. So I'm up underneath here trying to find the brake pedal wires for the brake switch, and look what I found. Some random 12-volt constant hot wire just hanging out. And the only reason I found this is because it accidentally touched one of the metal pieces under there and sparked and caught my attention. If you're doing wiring on a car and you have wires that you don't know where they go to, at the very least, tape them off, because that right there is no bueno. God, I don't know what else under here is hot. All right, So maybe I get lucky, it's just this one, but we're gonna have to take care of that for sure, because I can't have that flopping around in my face. Radiator is out. That was not as tough as I expected it to be, but look at this stuff. That is absolutely nasty. Coolant filled with mud. And now I gotta clean all this up in here. And we gotta flush the system. There it is. It's clearly an aftermarket radiator, and she's seen better days. Hopefully it will clean up and we can figure out where it's leaking and hopefully have it repaired. Oh, I don't know if you guys can see that. Yeah, look at that nasty stuff. Something's definitely clogged in there. This says OWN 217-2012. Because the radiator was so bad, I actually took it down to a radiator shop and had them kind of look at it and see if anything could be done, and it's toast. It needs to be re-cored. Quoted me about $700 to do it. That might be the way I go. I'm not sure yet. I'm gonna price out some radiators, but it sounds like that's probably gonna be my cheapest option. I mean, it's a good radiator when it's not all messed up. So that got me down the rabbit hole of the rest of the cooling system, and I need to check out the thermostat and the housing and all that stuff, and I need to flush everything out. Everything I could find about removing the thermostat on a Viper says you have to pull the intake manifold. I didn't do that. I'll show you how I did it. Here is my thermostat housing and my thermostat. It's in two pieces, and you can separate these pieces while it's still in the car, and then pull this one out first, take that one out, and you don't have to do anything with the manifold. The heads on these bolts, these are an E10. It's a special socket. It's an E as in Edward, E10. But if you just take off this shroud that goes over here where your wipers are, you can remove the tubes on either side, the hoses from the top, and you actually have quite a bit of room to get your hand in here and work. Now, if you want to get the assembly out as one piece, yes, you have to move your intake manifold, but if you do it the way that I just did it and split it while it's in the car, before you take these bolts off, leave those in, just take off the back side of the housing with the thermostat and kind of weasel it through here, and then take those bolts out, and then you can do the same thing with that other half. Overall, it probably took me 30-ish minutes, maybe 30-40 minutes total. Not bad. You just have to be patient, because that can get frustrating really, really quick. Thanks so much for watching. Stay hungry, stay foolish.